So our next speaker is in the person of Madam Aisha Adam, who is the founder of Iqra Educational Centre. She's currently the managing director of Iqra Educational Centre. Inshallah, she would be talking about what are some of the, how can we motivate the children in order that they will be able to learn properly and enjoy the learning and stay motivated, inshallah. So without wasting time, inshallah, I'll give Muallima Aisha the platform, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair. Muallima, faddal.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Okay, a moment, let me share my screen, and inshallah we can begin. I hope we can all see my screen. Okay, as much as possible, I would want this session to be quite interactive, because I believe that there's so much that we can learn from each other. Yes, we have been forced to do homeschooling for our children because of the pandemic, but I believe there is a reason for everything that happens, and we only need to see the silver lining in all of it and then take advantage of it. So if you can all see my screen, kindly interact with me. Let me see a yes in the chat session, please. Can I see a yes in the chat session, please?
Yes, please.
Okay. So I would encourage us to use our chats more, so that I can tell that there is an interaction that is going on. Now we are looking at online learning techniques. Our sister Dr. Nasiba has given us an overview of the different forms that we can have. One of the forms, as she mentioned, is doing it online. So I am going to narrow down into the online learning techniques because it seems to be the most popular form of homeschool as we have it currently in our country, because most parents go to work or work outside the home. So online or having a teacher come in to teach seems to be the most predominant forms that we have. Now, going into my slides, I share with you this picture. Please share with me in the chat. What do you see? What are your observations about the picture I'm sharing with you? What do you see happening in this picture? Please share with me in the chat session. Sorry. Any volunteer? Okay, I think we've had, yes, during the learning, children are taking time to play. Good. The children are not concentrating, they are only playing. Ms. Arafat said they are learning and playing. Madam Hawa says they are playing. The teacher is actively teaching. Abdul says 2 kids with laptop. Sarishima says during the learning, children are taking time to play. Exactly, children being children would want to play the whole day. So having a child sit behind a computer or a laptop to study is not really something that they anticipate or look forward to do. How do we ensure that they still get to play and still benefit from learning online? And those are the things we want to look at today, both from the point of the teacher and the point of the parents. So I'll move on to my next slide. Okay, so we want to look at online learning. What at all is online learning? Now, online learning is actually education that takes place over the internet. and usually it is referred to as e-learning. But we need to understand that when we talk about online learning, it could actually be just computer-based without internet. And then it could be with internet together with a computer. You need a computer or you need a device, whether a phone or a laptop, to be able to connect via the internet. But then there are types of online learning, or there are types of learning that does not require internet. You can have a system built onto a computer and the child can still learn. So when we talk about e-learning and online learning, these are two words that are used interchangeably. But then online learning specifically refers to the one that happens via the internet. But e-learning can actually be via a computer or a device, but not necessarily over the internet. So either way, it is e-learning, but online learning is specifically relating to internet. Now, online learning is just one type of distance learning. It's the umbrella name for any learning that takes place across distance and not in a traditional classroom. Like what we are doing currently, the interactions we are doing currently, we are learning from each other. It's distance learning because we are not meeting or having a physical interaction. This is what we call distance learning, and online learning is actually one of them. Now, I want us to look at the two types of online learning. For schools that have opened in Europe, in the Americas, the types of online learning and what a particular school is going for, is going to use is big topic, okay? Whether they want to do what they call the synchronous learning or the asynchronous learning. Now, I would want to narrow down to just these two, because when we talk about the types of online learning, there are actually about 10 different types of online learning. But for the purpose of this presentation, I want to limit myself to the two most common types, which is the synchronous and the asynchronous type of learning. Sorry. Sorry, I think my screen went off. A moment, please. Okay, I hope you can see my screen again. Sorry about that. Okay, so when we talk about the synchronous learning, we are looking at the type of learning that enables groups of students to participate in a learning activity together at the same time. So what we are doing currently, for example, is what we will call the synchronous learning. Because with this one, you can actually hear me in real time. If you speak, I would also hear you in real time. And then if you have any feedback or questions, we can have that interaction in real time or through chats. We are doing this via video conferencing. It makes it synchronous. And these tools will allow the training participants and the instructors to ask and answer questions instantly. So that makes this type of online learning synchronous. Another type of online learning that is used, especially in education, is the asynchronous kind of online learning. Now, with this one, the students are expected to meet certain targets, but at their own pace. So, for example, if I put a set of assignments or I record some videos and put them onto a platform and give the children links for them to go to and then watch the videos and answer the questions. As at the time that a particular student may be on, other students may be absent. The instructor may also be absent, but the student is there. The students will do it, give me that feedback. I may come at a later date and check it and then give the student feedback. So you have that kind of flexibility for parents who would say, maybe I'll go to work And as at 8 a.m. when the class is beginning, I would not be present to support my child. With an asynchronous online system, then if it's weekend, if it's evenings, that flexibility is there for the parents. Kindly do well to send me a chat if you have any questions as I move on. I would then want to move on to the advantages of online learning. My sister, Dr. Nasiba, has mentioned quite a number of them, but to mention just a few, yes, there is flexibility, as I talked about on the last slide. You can schedule you can make your own schedule, and then you can determine what environment is most conducive for you. It is not compulsory that you need to sit in a classroom environment. You would adapt your environment to suit your taste. There is actually reduced cost because the cost of providing online content for students is actually lower than having the students come on site. Things like rent, electricity, among others, being cut out. Even teaching and learning materials. When it comes to teaching and learning materials, if you are doing the face-to-face, to get your Manila card, you would need to get your glitters, your glue. But when you are doing it online, you can make some of these materials virtually, and then you get to show it to the children. And you actually even sometimes have a better view or a better quality of some of the things that aid in teaching. Online learning also gives our children networking opportunities, in the sense that when children connect online, as we are here, we are having people that have connected from all parts of Africa and all parts of the world. If we were having this program in a face-to-face setting, some of the participants in this would not be here. So it provides great networking opportunities where students can learn from each other, like what the exchange programs do for the face-to-face. You get students to interact and then have some of these conversations, share ideas amongst others. Documentation, it allows you to be able to store your documents and your documentations very well, because you do most of the work on the computer. So you get to save, unlike things that you may end up writing and possibly losing them. But with this one, you get to keep them as long as you want to. There's access to expertise. If there's a particular topic you want a teacher to treat, and perhaps that teacher is even outside the borders of this country, through online learning, you can have the opportunity to bring that teacher in to share their expertise. Now, one thing that online learning does for our children is that it gives them self-discipline and responsibility. Because if a child starts on a platform like this, then with time, with the help of the parent, the child then needs to build routine. So when I wake up in the morning, I need to do that. I need to pray. I need to make my bed and then get ready for this. At 8:30 a.m., I'm expected to log in. If I am to log in at 8:30 for class, then I should be ready by 8:15. With the support of the parents, the children would actually be able to develop this routine. And with time, you would see that there will be a reduction in how much supervision you need to give It also improves their computer technical skills. During the pandemic, a lot of children have now learned how to use some of the devices. Some were using it to play games and have fun, but now they have actually seen that it is a tool that can be very beneficial to them. The avoidance of commuting, having to buy food, find a driver to drive the child to school, in and out, together with all the risk that comes with it. Now, online learning also helps build concentration. I can agree that for some children, yes, they do get distracted, but depending on the expertise of the teacher who is conducting the online learning, research has actually shown that you are actually able to keep the concentration of children higher than you would have, depending on the techniques and the methods that you use. Also, for children who have been able to, for children who are shy in class, or the reticent kind of children who are shy, and when people don't want to speak, research has actually shown that online platforms gives these children the ability to actually come out of their shell and want to contribute and want to speak, depending on the opportunities that is given by the facilitator. Okay, now I move on to the next slide, where we want to look at the disadvantages of online learning. Yes, in our setting, especially for those of us in Ghana or in Africa, we agree that not every child in Ghana has access to a computer or a tablet or a phone. For those, you would have some who would have access to phones, which are possibly their parents, but what we call in Ghana, the yam phones. You cannot connect internet onto those phones. The parent is going to now give their phone to the child. Then that brings issues of security, issues of safety, because there may be things that may be appropriate for the parents, but not appropriate for the child. You see situations where children easily pick their parents' phones to use for certain activities, which is not advisable. We should be able to have dedicated devices for children. But how many homes are able to make these provisions? Then we look at the availability of internet. There are some parts of our country that do not have internet. For some areas that have the internet, it is costly. It is not affordable for the average Ghanaian to pay for internet for their child to learn. Other places, you have issues of stability. So as we speak, the line trips, or the presenter goes off, or the student goes off. If this student is participating in a synchronous online environment, then what happens to the period when that child was off and the lesson was going on? If that child returns, would they be able to catch up and join their colleagues from where he or she left off? Then you would also be looking at the child's ability to move away from lessons. A child can be behind the laptop, like the picture I shared in the beginning, and would actually be doing something else. And you, the teacher, may not see. As I am sharing my slide, I cannot see how many people are actually watching and listening to me. Some may be in public transport, some may be driving, some may be at programs, but they have dialed in. And I may not be able to say that everybody who is online is actually paying attention to me. Some of these children may end up even surfing the internet, possibly even surfing content that is not appropriate for their age. The issue of availability of the parents or the guardians to supervise their online learning is also another issue. If you have a child who possibly is in upper primary or JHS, I'm looking at children who are possibly about 8 years or even 7 years and above. Yes, they could have some level of responsibility. But what if you have a child who is in pre-K or K and you need them to have that connection with their teacher? Then it means you would need to sit by that child throughout the session, irrespective of what your own schedules are as a parent. The next is to the reduced communication and interaction, team building activities. What can we do to help these children? We agree that communication is reduced. They do not get to see their friends. Dr. Nasiba talked about socialization, which is an important aspect of every child that is growing up. You want to ensure that the child has learned how to socialize with another person, how to relate, how to say sorry, how to be friends with somebody and have a conversation. Do we have the opportunity of having these online? This is an important aspect of the children's growth and their upbringing. And we want to ensure that if we are going to be online, we put in team building activities, we put in group work, we allow conversations. It shouldn't be business as usual. You log on as a facilitator, and the first thing is, yes, we are here for our lesson. Our topic is, spend a few minutes, interact with the children, ask them what they ate today, make it fun. Tell them maybe today is maybe a pajamas day, or today is a yellow day, tomorrow is oranges day. Bring some oranges to class, make it fun, and allow them to interact with their friends and interact with you as a teacher. Don't keep them on mute and say, I will unmute you when I want you to speak. That is not communication. You need to be able to give them other avenues. If you think them speaking in the class would make the class disorderly, teach them to use the raise hand button. Teach them to use the chat button so you can interact and build their socialization as you work on their academics. Other disadvantages are the limited supervision for the child. Building their self-discipline is one of the things that you need to work on as a parent and as a facilitator. Make them responsible. Tell them to join 5 minutes before time. Put a timetable that you can create with the child at home. Even though they are home, just like they have a timetable at school, help that child to create a timetable for the house. Let them paste it and give them rewards for following their timetable. Teach them to read time. Help them build self-confidence and safety. When it comes to motivation, not all the motivation will be intrinsic. Some would have to be extrinsic. So you as a parent, you need to learn how to, how to hide your frustration. I can understand this online learning is new for all of us, and sometimes we all struggle. We can all relate to the time we had to connect our child and sometimes how frustrated we get. Even those who are technology savvy, when connecting or trying to get used to some of these online learning systems, the frustration sometimes comes in. But let us be sure that we are not passing on negative energy to the children, because the children hear us, oh, I'm stressed. What is all this? And we expect that the child will be able to sit behind the computer and their mind is ready to absorb. No, let us keep positive energy around the children. I know that the road is not that easy, and I know it's difficult sometimes. But let us keep encouraging ourselves and keep encouraging the children and let them know that, look, by the time this pandemic will be over, you would have achieved so much because you would have improved so many skills that hitherto were not that developed in you. So let us teach them time management skills. They should do their timetable. Limited personal feedback is the next item that is a disadvantage for online learning. So let us try as much as possible to encourage the chats and the interactions, as I have said before. Ask the children, let them tell you whether they understand. Don't just do the lesson and then let them go. Let them have conversations, put them into groups, put them into breakout sessions, let them discuss. One issue that also comes up as a disadvantage is cheating. Children sometimes would want to go onto Google and check what is the answer and come and type for you, especially during online assessment. We need to start having these conversations with our children. We need to let them appreciate why assessments are done. They are not done purposely to be able to obtain marks and be the highest and you are happy when you know you have cheated. We need to have these moral conversations and learn to build integrity in the lives of the children. Let them see the rationale behind it. Let them know it is okay to fail. The most important thing is that you keep trying till you get better. And hopefully we'll be able to minimize the effects of this disadvantage. The next disadvantage is self-isolation. there should be improved communication and relationship. We need to be able to bond with the children, just like we do when we are in school, where you ask the child and you can have a conversation. In fact, research has shown that when you are able to bond with a child and have a relationship with a child, you are able to influence the child better. The child wants to please you. The child wants to see you happy. The child doesn't want to see you sad. So even if they do not have an intrinsic motivation for completing their task, they want to do it because their teacher would be happy. So let us learn to improve communication between us and the children. And one thing that we can also do to improve the self-isolation is to have a hybrid system. Currently, because of the pandemic, hybrids are not that possible. But perhaps as the restrictions are being eased, we can look at how for some of the days the children can come on site, and then for some of the days they can be online, just to ensure that we have that balance and help the children. A disadvantage of the online learning is there's more theory than practice because it's not hands-on. But then let us encourage the children to do more projects, how to apply the knowledge, and then get them to do projects and actually bring it to class, share with your video, encourage them to keep their video on, and also keep your video on, because being able to influence a child really depends on how connected and how well bonded you are with the child. Next, I would want to look at how we can make this fun. Please, are there any chats in there for me? Let me do a quick check. If you have any questions, any top-ups, please, you can. Now, Abdulrahman wants to plead that the teaching materials, the slides be forwarded to us through WhatsApp for reference. Okay, inshallah, our technical team would look at this. Okay, I think I'm clear. If you have any more, please don't bother. You just have to send me a chat and then I'll take a look at it. At this point, I want to look at how to make the online learning fun. We all agree that children have very short attention span. If you're going to keep a child behind the PC for as much as an hour or more, especially for the younger ones, then you really have to make it interesting. You need to find ways of engaging that child. You need to find ways of motivating the child to stay on, and you need to find ways of ensuring that the child is interested in what you're doing. Now, we all know that children learn through play. So you ask yourself in planning your lessons, what can we put in place to ensure that this child feels like they are playing, meanwhile they are learning? So make your lessons activity-based, especially when it comes to children. Do not do lectures. They are not university students. It will not wash. You need to put in activities, get them to interact, ask them questions, let them use the chat button, unmute them sometimes, let them speak. That is the only way you can maintain their attention and keep them engaged. Let them feel that you value them. When they do things, acknowledge them and praise them. When you do this, you give the children colorful emotions and they want to stay there. They want to concentrate. They want to listen to what you have to say. You may be a very good teacher or facilitator in the classroom, but believe you me, if you're going to teach, you need to start on a road where you would learn more skill sets, because you will require more skills than how perfect you may have been in the classroom or in the face-to-face interaction. So please, for those of us who have had to do online learning, no matter how much laurels you have received for being a good face-to-face teacher, you need to learn and see how you can make these lessons interactive for the children. I think I have a chat here. Okay, so we have a few minutes. Okay, so let's move at this point to the next slide. I think I just have a few slides. So for the parents, at this point, I'm looking at how you can support. If the child is going to be online, we need to be able to establish the routines as we spoke earlier, ensure that you have a good place to learn. The environment must be conducive. You as a parent must stay in touch, follow up, even if you have to go to work. Have that check-in in the morning, have that conversation. What is your plan for the day? What are you going to do? What do you have to accomplish? When you come in the evening, have that same conversation. Show interest in what the children are doing, even if you cannot participate in it. Help the students to own their learning. You shouldn't have to keep reminding them that they have a class at 2 p.m. Build a system where they will develop that routine and want to do it themselves. Check-ins, encourage physical activity. A lot of children are spending time behind gadgets. They are doing all day. They only break to eat. Some of the children, even from the reports I have received, some want to even use the washroom and they don't want to get up. They are in the middle of an activity and they want to stay there. And children who have already been potty trained want to be on the machine and still have wee-wee or poo-poo on themselves. These are things that we need to put in breaks for the children. I would come as I do my last two slides, and then we can look at how we can help them even with the screen time. Let us encourage physical activity. Come out with them onto the compound, have activities, use clay, use mud, build things, let them run around, let them have fun, and learn to manage the stress. Please do not pass it on. If you pass any energy on to your child, ensure that the energy is positive. And then finally on this slide, we need to monitor the screen time and how much time our children spend online. For our teachers, we are saying that ensure we are breaking down the lesson and allowing and making it digestible for the children. Don't put it in one full chunk. Break it down into pieces. Let them understand. Let the student feel valued. Set goals and objectives. Do the breakout and the activities, the warm-up activities with them. Dance around with them. Sing with them. Have fun. Do the riddles. Let them wear something unique to class each day. Now they are home, so there are a lot of things they can carry along in their virtual classroom. And let us exercise a lot of patience. When you are online, you can easily flip. Let us try as much as possible as teachers. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, and exercise a lot of patience when we are dealing with children online. Bring laughter to the class. Let the children have some real laugh. Not smiles, real laughter. Tell them jokes and let them have fun. And use technology to your advantage. Now you could do the whiteboard, you could do the slide share, you could do the annotations. Let them have real fun and they would want to keep coming back. My last two slides, I want to talk about screen time, which I have mentioned earlier. Let us ensure that our children have been educated, especially when it comes to their brain and their eyes. That is one area that I am so concerned about, especially in this time. Most parents have bought gadgets for the children, and the children are holding it 24/7. Even when it's sleep time and they enter their room, they are still gadgets. And when they hear mommy is coming, they put it under the pillow and it looks like they are asleep. We need to help these children to develop good and proper screen time culture. Let us monitor and regulate how much time these children are on the screen. For their eyes, you need to ensure that they are having bigger screens. The smaller the screen, the more they strain their eyes, and this would affect their eyes. Now, the thing is, when a child or when any human being is looking into a screen, the light that comes from the screen actually goes to the farthest back of the eyes. Now, when this happens, you realize that the more light that goes in, especially for the blue light, you would have an effect on the eyes. So you want, as much as possible, let us distance them from the screen. Sometimes they put the screen too close to their eyes. Let us give them good lighting. And then for some of the tablets and some of the gadgets, you can actually stream what's it called? You can stream or filter the blue light, which is the most dangerous. Currently, there are a lot of products which are more like spectacles that a child or someone can wear to screen or filter the blue light, which is very harmful. Some of us are spending half of our day or all the hours in the day on screens, and we only go back to sleep. Let us try as much as possible. If the child goes to bed at 8, latest by 6:30 p.m., the screen should be off. If not, that it's going to affect their sleeping, the child's sleeping habits because of the excess exposure to light. And let us look at how we can adjust the brightness, filter the blue lights as much as possible. Either you use the spectacles or you check in the settings. Actually do it right now. When you do the drop down, check, you see filter blue light, even if it's on your phone. And try as much as possible. Let us not make them do, or let us not even use these gadgets in the dark. Sometimes the lights will be off and you are in bed and you are checking your phone. All of these put pressure on our eyes and that of our children. So yes, internet is a double-edged sword, but where we are currently, you cannot deprive your child of internet. What we will need to do is to ensure that we put in certain measures in place so that we can guide its usage. But to say because it's harmful, I am going to cut it out, that will not help us. So make it available, but with regulation. And then you can have interactions with the child, discuss with them internet safety. You can use the parental control app. I could suggest Studio because that is an app I use for my children. I get to say when it's Asr time, so I have done the settings. When it's 3 to 4, it's a break. 12 to 1 is a break. 6 to 7 is a break. Whether they like it or not, whether I'm home or not, the tablet would go off. They cannot do anything on it. This helps. You can also block some of the websites, or you can say, okay, when the child is going to maybe a pornographic website, block it. And these are settings you can fix in. What time should the tablet come on? What time should it go off? This is paid, but in a year you may be paying very little from what I currently do. You could also do the Google Family Link, which is free. Before a child even downloads an app, you get a prompt, you need to enter the password. Let us put in the regulations and then help the children to be able to use internet. Where we are today, the children need to be exposed to it. There's so much they can learn if they get the right guidance from us. Thank you very much. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
MashaAllah. Jazakillahu khairan ya mudira. This was a very, very wonderful and very insightful presentation. I personally have learned a lot from this particular presentation. Okay, before we go, Malima, please, there are some few questions I would like you to actually address before we then go on to, we go back to Dr. Nasiba to complete the rest of the presentation, and then we take some questions, inshallah. In the chat part, there is one Mr. Abdul who says, how much screen time is okay per day?
Okay. Now, research has actually shown that there are required screen times for different ages. Okay, so depending, the younger the child, the lesser the screen time. If you have a child who, let's say, is about 5 years or 6 years, let's say a child who is in kindergarten, then you would want to have maybe, okay, if you're going to have maybe an hour or two for games or for play, and then you're going to have some for the learning online, you need to be able to regulate it. And these are things that when you Google specific ages, you actually see the recommended number of hours for your the specific age you are looking at.
Thank you very much. There's also one Mr. Abbas Solo who is asking, how do we address the inability of our poor parents to sponsor the online learning? And then he goes on to say, what other alternatives are there for our poor and deprived communities to educate their children in COVID period?
Yes. So I think this question ties to my earlier introduction when I talked about the difference between online learning and e-learning. In fact, if we had had the opportunity to prepare effectively, we could have such centers, e-learning centers, okay, where children in the community, so you're not going to have the huge numbers, okay, it's more like a localized system. The systems will be inbuilt in there, and then they can have access even when there is no internet, because it's not online, but it's e-learning. So e-learning can be done through there are these gadgets. I think currently Asanka has come in, and it's like a radio. You just need to hold it, and then the child gets to learn. There are so many opportunities. Now, I must admit that because there is no face-to-face interaction, if you are not using e-learning, even if you do not have the opportunity of online learning, then it becomes a bit reduced, because it is not expected that you will still have those interactions. Unfortunately, that is, and this would greatly increase the divide between the child who is in the urban areas and the children not in the urban areas. I think they are the most affected.
Thank you very much, Malima.